Everybody, welcome to a brand new deck profile. So now today I'm profiling my METAPHYS deck. I think I've profiled this deck at least 2 times now, but I keep changing the build a bit. And I keep adding cards and removing cards. For example, Desires. I really want another part of Desires. So I'm constantly like evolving this build and making sure it's like as good as it can be. But yeah, so onto the concept of the deck. So METAPHYS is a mill slash banish deck. They sort of like mill, but then, when they mill, they want to get banished. So, cards like Fairytale Snow in a Light Swan variant of the build is, it's really, really good because you mill a bunch of METAPHYS cards and then you Snow, banish them, and then they trigger their effects. So it's a really solid game plan. But I like playing a more pure version of the deck with like a few engines, because I just really like how the deck works by itself and just how it's able to work without any other help. I think that's like the coolest part of the whole strategy of this deck. So onto the actual deck profile. We played double METAPHYS Armed Dragon. The reason I play this card is because it goes really well with Light Ray Grepher, because this card in your hand without METAPHYS Factor is sort of a dead card, but you can always discard it for Light Ray Grepher, getting its special summon effect, and then you can also use the effect. Alternatively, you can use the effect to banish. You can like discard to then banish this. I mean, discard a monster from the deck. So essentially, it's a really, really sweet card. And it's also pretty beefy. It has a lot of attack points. Sometimes you just want to bring something out of Ragnarok that isn't Tyrant. I mean, Tyrant Dragon is a really good card to bring out a Ragnarok. But sometimes your opponent has something like, let's say, Skill Drain, or something that prevents special effect monsters or whatever. Or even like Crystal Wings or whatever. So, sometimes you just want to bring out a normal monster, and it does serve other purposes in the deck. So I like playing it at 2. Then we play triple METAPHYS, Tyrant Dragon. This is by far the least good in terms of like progressing your game state, but it's the best one for special summoning out your 2 other boss monsters. So this card, when it's summoned, it's unaffected by traps, so it's really good. So if your opponent plays a lot of back row, and also it can make a second attack in a row if he attacked a monster, so you can like use it to pop 2 monsters on the field, or you can like destroy a monster and then attack directly. This is just a really solid card to bring out of Ragnarok, because it has a very standard effect of just like making itself immune to traps. The second effect is that if this card is in the banished zone, you can, during the standby phase, you can shuffle it back into the deck and then special summon a METAPHYS from the hand. So this combos really well with Nephthys, because you activate Nephthys first, adding a METAPHYS from your deck to your hand, and then you can special summon it using Tyrant Dragon. So it's sort of like a combo that you want to get used to doing, especially to bring out Daedalus. So pretty neat. Then we play triple METAPHYS Nephthys. This card, when it's special summon, you can banish all set spell and traps on the field. I wish it didn't have that restriction of being set spells. I wish it was just like all spells and traps, because in my opinion it would make the deck a lot better, especially with things like magicians running around. Normal magicians and pendulum magicians and dark magicians and all sorts of magicians and back row heavy decks. Even though this card is really good against paleos and stuff, it's still sort of awkward in a way, because it only affects set spell and traps. But you can make sure its effect goes off if you have METAPHYS Factor on the field. Then we play triple METAPHYS Daedalus. So this card, if it's special summoned by the effect of a METAPHYS, all of them, have to be special summoned by effect of a METAPHYS monster. You can banish all face-up special summoned monsters on the field. Again, sort of like a really awkward effect where it only affects special summoned monsters, but nowadays everything special summons out itself. If it was just like all face-up monsters, I think that would be a little bit too good. But yeah, it's still a pretty solid card. And if this card is banished in your standby phase, you can shuffle it into the deck and then banish a different METAPHYS. So you can get access to your Search for next turn, or your Tyrant Dragon, so you can just use this to set up for your plays. I think it's the least good to banish after like Tyrant, but also like the best one to set up plays along with Tyrant. So all these, they have like sort of like the situational sort of effects. We play one Fairy Tale Snow in grind games if we have a lot of monsters that are banished, or if we have things that get milled. Snow, is really clutch. Even banishing things from our hand or field, if we have like dead cards in the hand that we can activate. Snow is really, really good in the late game, so it's always a solid card that you want to have in your graveyard regardless. Then we play double Light Ray Grepher. This is like, if you remember from Teledad format or Dad Returns or whatever you want to call it, that 2008 format where people played Dark Ray, I think it was just Dark Grepher. It's pretty much the same thing but for light monsters, and the fact that you can banish light monsters from your deck is really, really sweet. Basically giving you access to any effect that you want, the search, the special summon, or the banish. Then we play triple METAPHYS Ragnarok, not necessarily the best normal summon, because in my opinion Grepher is always a good normal summon. But Ragnarok, because it has the effect that can also work when it's special summon, makes this card a little bit better. Especially if you special summon it off things like Tyrant Dragon. When this card is normal special summon, you can banish the top 3 cards of your deck, so you sort of like mill 3 but banish them. And then it gains 300 cards for each METAPHYS card banished, so it can even be the spell and trap. And then when this card inflicts damage, you can special summon a level 5 or higher METAPHYS card from your deck, but then banish it during the end phase. So pretty sweet effect. Not much else to say. You kind of just want to make sure you can combo this off with things like Daedalus, but when you do special summon Daedalus, you want to make sure this card was normal summon so it doesn't get affected by Daedalus, and that way you can just get free damage on the field and special summon Tyrant Dragon. Then we'll play double Necrophase. Necrophase is amazing in this deck. It sort of adds a little bit of RNG to the deck, but also like potentially milling like 2 to 3, ideally like, if I mill 2 METAPHYS boss monsters, that's already like a really good mill off Necrophase, as well as just disrupting your opponent's play. If you banish things like, if they are playing things like machine duplications, or if they were playing really important cards, banishing their hand traps, banishing basically anything, banishing like 5 cards off your opponent's deck will decrease their consistency, and it's really, really good. Especially in the Pendulum matchup, if you can like banish their trap card, because most Pendulum decks play 1 to 2 trap cards, so if you banish one and you just destroy the second one, then bring out, you kind of just auto win because they don't have any control. So yeah, and this card is also really good for getting beefy, because when it's summoned, when it's normal summon, you can return everything that's shuffled, and it gains 100 per card that was shuffled. So really, really good. Then we'll play triple Potted Desires to complement our Necrophase. Potted Desires does not hurt this deck in any way, shape, or form. You play 3 of all the cards that you need, and then just drawing 2 cards is always really, really good. And you can always put those cards back with Necrophase, so Potted Desires is a must play at 3 in this deck. Onto the other draw engines of the deck. I play double Trade-In and one Sacred Sword of 7 Stars. Sacred Sword of 7 Stars, that's a long name, is a really good card because you can banish your Daedalus or your METAPHYS Arm Dragon, and then your Daedalus can trigger, you draw 2 cards off this. But because there's just better trade-in targets, like to discard, so we have more, we have 6 instead of just 5. I think it makes it justifiable to run double trade-in. I mean, you can easily cut one trade-in out and, you still have like a really solid deck, because when these cards come up, they are really, really nice. Then we'll play triple Gold Sarcophagus. This card is amazing. There's so many targets we can banish depending on what kinds of plays we want to make. We can banish a METAPHYS for setup. We can banish a Necrophase in case we want to mill. You have like 3 really solid targets, 4 with Necrophase, so there's plenty of cards that you want to banish. And if you banish Necrophase, the really good thing about this card is that Necrophase will eventually come back to your hand, so it'll set up for like a big beat stick essentially. So yeah, really sweet. Then we'll play triple Left Arm Offering to compensate the strategy of just being able to search out Gold Sarcophagus. You sort of just want to like play all the cards that you need, so as long as you don't set. So for example, your Ragnarok, maybe your spells, and then eventually make sure you don't set anything, and then go for your Left Arm Offering, because even banishing your METAPHYS cards like fixes your hands and sets up for future plays. So yeah, very, very good card. Then we'll play triple METAPHYS. This card is amazing. Essentially, you can, this is a card trader, but for METAPHYS cards. So you banish a METAPHYS and then draw a card. So if you can banish one of your 3 boss monsters, like their effects go off, which is amazing, and then you also draw another card, so that's fantastic. Another really good thing is once per turn, if a METAPHYS is banished, on our turn, our opponent's monsters lose 500, and that's permanent. On the opponent's turn, they change battle position, so we can sort of, we do have a little bit of control with sort of like a mini Book of Eclipse. I mean, yeah, I think it's Book of Eclipse or something. One of the books that changes everything. Anyway, they will play one-dimensional fissure because, you know, it just says no to graveyard decks, and the synergize is amazing with our deck. Especially if you have a Waterfall of Dragon Souls. Being able to just banish stuff is always really, really good. And then we'll play Triple METAPHYS Factory. This card is amazing in case we do draw our big boss monsters, and we have this to just summon them without tributing, so pretty good. But then they also get banished, so it's a win-win. So very, very solid card. And then we'll play Triple Oasis of the Dragon Souls. This can be a searcher, or we can also use it to mill. Well, not necessarily mill, but like send our cards from hand to grave and then draw +1, so it's pretty good card. One Macrocosmos to basically act as a same thing as Dimensional Fissure, and then double METAPHYS Dimension. I play this card at 3, and at 3, like, the only reason I would play this card at 3 is so it has more, we have one more target for Ragnarok, but even still, it doesn't really justify us playing it at 3. And the fact that you have it at 2, you know, it makes it so, like, it's searchable, you have it when you need it. If it comes up, it's amazing. Playing it at 3, it won't really necessarily, like, hurt your consistency, but, it won't really, like, progress your game state, because this is just an amazing card on itself, and if your opponent doesn't know what to do, or how to deal with it, it can definitely cause a lot of problems. So, if your opponent special summons a monster, you can target a banished METAPHYS and special summon it, but then you banish it during the end phase of the next turn. And then if all the METAPHYS cards are banished while this card is face up, you can target a one card your opponent controls and banishes. So as long as you banish a METAPHYS, you can banish one of their cards. So even though it's a targeting banish, it's still a banish, so that's really, really good. Onto the extra deck. The extra deck is honestly, like, unnecessary. I rarely go into the extra deck, like, if ever, because, you know, you just have, like, really, really good boss monsters on the field that have, like, really, really good effects, and you honestly don't need an extra deck to play this deck. That's, like, the best part about it, is you don't need an extra deck. But if you do want to play an extra deck, cards I recommend Deco Talker, because it's a solid link, Cowboy for game, Castel for removal, Baguska for stall, Tornado for back row. Ragnar Zero synergizes really well with as METAPHYS, so you can pop in draw. A Utopia package, you know, sometimes your METAPHYS don't have enough attack, and if you didn't get your Daedalus off, it can be pretty tough to destroy some monsters, so, you know, having access to Utopia is pretty good. Draco Sack is a sweet, like, a really neat target. In case you do have 2-level, in case you have 2 level 7, so it's always pretty good. And same thing for Red Eyes, you know, just puts your opponent under pressure. But, you know, these rarely come up, but if they do, they just help you. And then we have the Titanic Galaxy, because it's one of the best rank 8s that you can make. But again, it's very rare that you'll go into this card. And yeah, that about wraps up the deck profile. Now I will show you some replays with the deck, which is something I don't usually do, but I gathered a few replays, so these are not, like, particularly any good decks, but you know, it still shows, like, how the deck works. So first deck, I believe I'm playing against the Mice King of Armageddon. Pretty weird deck, you know, you don't see this deck being played a lot of times, but he goes for the Marshmallow, so pretty annoying card. I just get a Necroface, mill 5, Factor, and I'm just setting up for next turn. I use Dimension to set up my banished zone, and then banish one of my opponent's monsters because the METAPHYS was banished, so I banished his Marshmallow, so that was really good because that way he won't have the Marshmallow effect to protect him from battle. So he does attack with his monsters, and then uses Armageddon to destroy all of my set stuff, which is fine. You know, we do have the ideal snow. If we ever come across snow here, we do have plenty of targets. I use Ragnarok, and Ragnarok mills 3 cards, banishes 3 METAPHYS cards, so he had enough attack to get over the Mice King. And again, I'm just doing my setup plays with the Ragnaroks, and just basically setting up for the standby phase. So I get a Search here, and then Daedalus to put something else. The Necroface comes back, I go for Dimensional Fissure, shuffle everything back, and I thought, you know, whatever. But apparently he had another Marshmallow, and I didn't know this. And I'm Ragnarok is Spanish, so that's okay, I guess. Oh, he had a Beast King Barbaros. Wow, this is some like school level deck, you know, just playing like okay cards. But I mean, honestly, I don't know why he surrendered here, because he could have discarded the Beast King Barbaros for a trade-in as like a trade-in target, and then that way he would have drawn 2 cards. It's not like I had a way to like beat over his monsters, because they couldn't be destroyed by battle, so I would have to like either banish them or go into my extra deck. I mean, I did have the second Necrophase, so I guess I could, let's say, Necrophase into perhaps a Castel, maybe, or something. So, you know, this is a duel against Deskbots. I don't know, like, much about Deskbots. I mean, I've played them, but it's not necessarily a deck that I like to play. But here, I just keep milling, and I milled a few good cards that he had. So he goes for a Strangled Battle, but I keep my METAPHYS Dimension because it's a crucial card to keep, especially in this when it's the only card that if I could only pick one card, the Dimension was, for me, the best card to keep. Because I knew he was playing Despot, so he would eventually special summon, and if I could use the control factor of this card, it would help me immensely. So I did set up the Tyrant Dragon so I could special summon the Ragnarok eventually. So here I special summon and Ragnarok mill. I mill a METAPHYS, so I banish his face down, which I think was Globe Bulb. Now he turns my monster into defense, and then he beats over with Despot 1, and then makes a Clear Wing. Just saying, Clear Wing was actually like a really solid card here, because all of my big METAPHYS monsters are level 5 or higher. So unless I banish it or get rid of it in a different way, it was a really solid play by him making Clear Wing. So here I special summon Daedalus. He negates, I believe. Yeah, he negates and destroys. And then Daedalus effect to put out... so, yeah, that was basically my process. So I was going to bait him into negating my Daedalus. And then... eventually, like, you know, I'd special summon something else. And then something will get milled. And then that's when I would go for the banish on the clearing. So that's how I was able to get over it. And then just summon Necrophase, shuffle everything back into the deck, and this becomes like a huge monster. Like 4,000 attack, and then just attack for 4,000, attack for 2,400, bring out a Tyrant Dragon because this did inflict damage, and then just attack for game. So, pretty okay. So now we are getting into like sort of better decks, you can call them. So my opponent is playing, I believe, Light Swans or something. Oh yeah, he's playing Light Swan Zombies, I believe. Yeah, so he goes for his Mizuki play. Mizuki goes Zuki, brings back Solitaire, and then he just makes the Baguska because he drew the Garnet, so... And he also drew the Darlington Cobra, so that was like a really bad hand for him, even though he did have a double Lone Fire and a Pot of Desires. So I'm just doing my standard METAPHYS plays to like banish the cards that I need to set up for future plays. But here I have to figure out how am I supposed to get over the Ragnarok. And one way, not the Ragnarok, the Baguska, and one way I thought about destroying the Baguska was I can just put it in attack mode, so that way my opponent will have to like either switch it to defense or leave it in attack. If he leaves it in attack, I can set up for a Tyrant Daedalus play. So he summons the Garnet to just beat over my monsters. So, not bad. Here so what I do here is I use the effect to add something to my hand, and then I banish the METAPHYS to draw. I didn't draw, well, I did draw a Daedalus, and then I go for the left arm offering, banishing the Daedalus, and getting me access to a Necrophase, which then gave me more banishes. So here, I'm just putting everything in attack. So even though it's my opponent's turn, if he does not have enough damage to kill me, he will lose the game. He did use Spirit Master to destroy my Dimensional Fissure, which is okay. But here I believe I have the right combo to beat over my opponent, which is the Search for Daedalus, and then special summon Tyrant Dragon to special summon Daedalus, and then just banish all my opponent's monsters. And then I just Necrophase, shuffle everything back into the deck once more. And this guy just becomes huge, like, yeah, 5,000 attack, so that is game right there. So yeah, if your opponent does not have like any back row or like solid cards. Oh wow, and he drew the Trick Clown. Wow, he just bricked like really, really hard. but he did have access to left arm offering, so he could have potentially milled, probably searched for grass, but he died, so yeah. And now playing against Monax. Monax is like a very not consistent deck. Let me check his hand, because I didn't know what he was playing. So I guess he had the Max C, he had the Snow Rabbit, Idols, Erupt, so he really needs like, yeah, he really needed to go second here. Yeah, he just set one, and so this deck, even though it was like a very one-sided duel, I just use it for like, I want to show like the power of double Necrophase and how it can make inconsistent decks even more inconsistent, just make them lose like a lot of their tools. So off the 2 Necrophases that I banished, let's see what I banished off my opponent. An Erebus, an Aether, sorry, not Idea, an Aether. So he has no access to Aether. Banished 2 of his Idols, even though he has 1 in hand. Banished 2 of his Domain, banished his Foolish, and banished another Erupt. Oh, and an Ash. So like he lost a lot of like his power plays essentially. So he does go for the Ghost Ogre and tries to stall. That's okay, I just set the Sacred Sauce for bluff. So I'm just here setting up for a Daedalus play again. Using the effect to special summon and then mill. I did get the mill effect to banish the Ragnarok. I mean, the mill effect of Ragnarok, so I was able to banish his face down. Even though it wasn't like a really big card, it was still pretty good. And I bought Tyrant Dragon because he was playing Monarchs, and I was like, oh, Monarchs Erupt, you know, I don't want to be affected by that, so I'll just bring out Tyrant Dragon. So he goes for Pantheism, and I just go Microcosmos, so he doesn't even have the Pantheism in the graveyard, so he can't even, like, do the reveal, the ability to, like, the effect to reveal 3 of the same and then make me add 1 to his hand. And now I want to show this deck against Trixes, because Trixes, you know, are a very, not necessarily like graveyard reliant deck, but they're just like a really annoying deck with a lot of negation and like ability to stop you. But this deck can actually put like a really good fight against Trixes, especially if you can have like a dimensional fissure on the field, and the fact that even if they reincarnation, it honestly doesn't matter. It just helps you if anything. So here I'm just like, okay, I'll just set a few cards, make sure I can use them, like my Gold Sarcophagus, so he can't chain. I mean, even if he reincarnations, I already have the Dimensional Fissure, but before I use the Fissure, let me set my 2 Gold Sarcophagus cards, because that's what I wanted the most, was the double Necrophase banish, because that way I'll hurt his consistency a lot, make him lose a bunch of like cards that he needs, so yeah. So you know, I go for Gold Sarcophagus, banish off Necrophase. I'm taking damage off using spell cards, but that's okay. Gold Sarcophagus again. Mill even more, and then Ragnarok. Get a few more mills. I don't think I got anything useful there, but I am setting up for a Daedalus play for next turn in case he does bring out something, which he does with that's the Macabre. Oh no, he goes for Purgatrio, I believe. I mean, I don't think that was like a very good play, Macabre. Oh no, I don't even think he had access to it, because everything got banished because of Dimensional Fissure. So yeah. So here I just go Daedalus, banish everything, and you know, not much my opponent can do. My Ragnarok attacks, brings out Tyrant Dragon. I don't think I automatically win, but I don't think my opponent can do much in this situation. So I did search for my trap card here because it was like the best card I could search for. I already had everything else that I needed. So yeah. Just a little showcase of the deck against different kinds of decks. Anyway, if you guys did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and until then, I'll see you in the next one.